coffee grounds. A handful of them, still wet from the morning pot, dumped straight onto the soil at the base of a tomato plant. You have seen it 1,000 times. Somebody swears their plants exploded after they started doing this. And somewhere in your kitchen right now, there is a filter full of them by the sink, waiting for you to decide whether it belongs in the garden or in the trash. That decision is what this whole video is about. Here is what nobody in those viral clips will tell you. There is a University of Melbourne trial where researchers mixed spent coffee grounds into the soil of broccoli, leek, radish, and sunflower. Every one of those plants grew worse, measurably, visibly worse, across every soil type they tested. And yet, coffee grounds are not useless in the garden. Both of those things are true at once. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why and how to use them, so they help instead of hurt. I went through 14 studies and 2 university extension trials for this one, and I read the parts everybody skips. The methods, the soil types, the numbers underneath the headline. Because that is where the truth about coffee grounds actually lives, and almost nobody looks there. Get this wrong and the cost is not small. You spend a whole season feeding a plant something that quietly suppresses its roots, and you do not find out until harvest, when the yield comes in thin. That tomato does not get a second try. That season is gone. So before you throw one more filter onto your beds, you need to know what these grounds are really doing down there. Most people believe coffee grounds are basically free fertilizer, straight from the kitchen to the roots. But the science points somewhere stranger. Applied the way most gardeners apply them, coffee grounds behave less like a fertilizer and more like a brake pedal on your plants. And the reason why is the most useful thing you will learn today. Quick thing before we go deeper. Subscribe if you would rather have the method than the promise. What comes next is not in the videos that sent you here. Alright, let's keep going. So we have a puzzle. A free material that a major university trial says makes vegetables grow worse, sitting next to hundreds of gardeners insisting it transform their beds. Both look at the same brown grounds. Only one knows what is happening. To settle it, we go back to where the idea came from, because the origin explains the whole misunderstanding. The coffee grounds idea did not start in a lab. It started at a kitchen sink, the way most garden wisdom does. Somebody finished the pot, looked at the dark, damp, earthy grounds in the filter, and thought, that looks exactly like rich soil. It has to be good for plants. That leap, made by millions over decades, is the entire origin of the myth. It was never measured. It just looked right. And there is a grain of truth in that instinct, which is why the idea survived. Coffee grounds do contain nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the same 3 elements printed on every bag of fertilizer at the garden centre. So coffee grounds feed your plants did not sound like nonsense. It sounded like common sense with a free price tag. The problem was never the ingredients list. It was everything the list left out. Because here is what that kitchen sink logic could not see. Having nitrogen inside you is not the same as handing nitrogen to a plant. The grounds hold on to it. Japanese and Spanish researchers who measured this found the nitrogen stays locked in the material for months before a plant can use any of it. Your tomato is hungry now, in July. The coffee promises to pay it back next spring. That gap is where the whole thing quietly falls apart. And then there is the part the sink logic never suspected. Coffee is not just nutrients. It is caffeine, tannins, and polyphenols. Those compounds did not evolve to feed the plants around the coffee shrub. They evolved to fight them. Caffeine is a chemical weapon the coffee plant uses to suppress competitors nearby. Pour fresh grounds onto your soil, and you are adding a substance whose job in nature is to stop other plants from growing. Do me one favour here. If this is already changing how you look at that filter by your sink, hit subscribe, because in a few minutes I will show you the exact point where this help turns into harm. Now back to the caffeine, because this is where the two sides finally meet. That single fact explains the Melbourne result and the happy gardeners at the same time. Fresh grounds carry active caffeine. Composted grounds do not, because composting breaks it down. So the person who saw their plants suffer and the person who saw them thrive were almost never using the same material. One used fresh, one used aged. Same grounds by the sink, completely different effect in the soil, which raises the obvious question. What does the hard evidence say once you stop guessing and start measuring? Let's start with the trial I keep mentioning because it is the cleanest. Researchers Sarah Hardgrove and Stephen Livesley at the University of Melbourne spent coffee grounds into urban soils, then planted 5 common crops: broccoli, leek, radish, viola, sunflower. They tried different soil types. They even added fertiliser alongside the grounds to give them every chance, and the plants still grew poorly in every combination. Read their own conclusion, and it is blunt. All the horticultural plants grew poorly in response to the spent coffee grounds, regardless of soil type and added fertiliser. That is a strong statement in the careful world of soil science. The suppression was not a fluke of one bad bed. It showed up everywhere they looked. So if coffee grounds were pure fertiliser, this result should be impossible. Something in that material is working against the plant. But one trial is never the whole story, and this is where the viral videos cheat. They grab the study that fits and ignore the rest. So let's do the opposite. The University of California's Agriculture and Natural Resources program looked at coffee grounds too, and they did not say throw them away. They said something more precise and more useful. UC's researchers pointed out that coffee grounds carry far less nitrogen than any real fertiliser, and that the nitrogen they do carry has to be composted before a plant can reach it. Notice what that does. It does not call them poison. It does not call them plant food either. It puts them in a third category the myth never had room for, a raw material that becomes useful only after time and microbes process it. That reframing is the key that unlocks the whole topic. Here is your reality check. If you have sprinkled fresh grounds around your plants all season, you are not a bad gardener. You followed advice that looked reasonable. You just were not told the one condition that makes it work. If you want that condition spelled out step by step, stay with me and subscribe, because the how is coming, and it is simpler than the garden internet makes it sound. Let's keep pulling the thread. So now we have 2 respected sources that seem to disagree. Melbourne says the plants suffered. California says the grounds can help with conditions. The videos would pick one and run. But when 2 good studies point different directions, they are usually both right, and the disagreement hides the real answer. That answer has a name, and it is the most important word in this subject. That word is nitrogen, and what happens to it in the soil. When you add carbon-rich, undecomposed matter like fresh coffee grounds, the soil microbes that break it down go into a feeding frenzy. To do that work, they need nitrogen, and they grab it from wherever they can, including the nitrogen already in your soil that your plants were counting on. This is called nitrogen tie-up, and it is the quiet mechanism behind most of the harm. Picture it in your bed. In June, your tomatoes' lower leaves yellow from the bottom up, older leaves first, while the veins stay greener. You think it needs water, so you water more, and it gets worse. What happened is that the microbes eating your fresh grounds pulled the available nitrogen out of the soil to fuel their work, and your plant got left short. The grounds did not feed your plant. They fed the thing competing with it. That is the Melbourne result in plain language. Never magic, never poison. Carbon-rich material dumped raw into soil, triggering a microbe bloom that starved the crop of nitrogen, on top of caffeine suppressing the roots directly. 2 mechanisms, stacking, in the exact conditions the myth creates. No wonder the plants grew worse. Now watch what changes when you compost first. Composting is that same microbe frenzy happening in a pile off to the side, instead of in your bed. The microbes feed there. The caffeine breaks down there. The tannins and polyphenols mellow out there. And what comes out is a stable, dark material that carries a small but real amount of usable nitrogen, plus the soil structure everybody actually wanted. Same grounds, processed outside instead of inside your roots. Halfway check-in. Everything from here is the practical part, the amounts and timing you can use this weekend. If this is the depth you wish more garden channels went to, subscribe now so the method sticks, because I am about to get very specific. Here is how you actually do it. So the evidence quietly rewrote the question. It was never coffee grounds, good or bad. It is raw or composted, and in what amount. Get those two right, and the material that wrecked the Melbourne trial becomes a genuine soil improver. Get them wrong and you repeat the myth in your own beds. Let's nail the numbers. Rule 1, and it is the whole game. Compost your coffee grounds before they touch a plant. Do not sprinkle fresh grounds around stems. Do not dig them into a bed you are about to plant. Do not top dress a hungry tomato with this morning's filter. Add them to a compost pile, let them break down, and only use the finished compost. That single habit turns every problem we described into a benefit. Rule 2 is proportion, and the research gives a firm ceiling. Coffee grounds should make up no more than about a quarter of your compost pile by volume, and many sources push closer to a fifth. Go past that, and the grounds choke the pile, because too much fine, dense material packs down and starves the good microbes of air. Coffee is one ingredient among several, never the main course. A coffee habit for two does not produce enough to overwhelm a normal pile. Rule 3 balances the carbon. Coffee grounds, despite the brown colour, behave like a green, nitrogen-leaning input. So pair them with plenty of brown, carbon-rich material, dry leaves, shredded cardboard, straw. A pile that is all coffee and kitchen scraps turns wet, dense, and sour. Layer the grounds thin, cover them with dry leaves or cardboard, and let the pile breathe. That balance is what lets the caffeine and tannins break down instead of just sitting there. Give it time. This is the step the myth skipped entirely. The grounds need to fully decompose, which for a healthy, turned pile means months, not days. You will know it is ready when you can no longer recognise the grounds as grounds, when the whole thing is dark, crumbly, and smells like a forest floor rather than breakfast. That finished material earns a place near your plants. Nothing before that point does. Make it to the end, and you will have the full picture, including the mistakes that quietly ruin all of this. Subscribe so you do not lose it, and let's get into direct use, because there is a narrow, correct way to use grounds outside the pile too. There is one direct use that holds up, with strict limits. If you insist on putting grounds straight onto soil, spread a layer no thicker than ½ an inch, then cover it with mulch, dry leaves, wood chips, bark. The reason is physical. Left bare, that fine coffee layer dries into a hard crust that repels water and blocks air. Thin and covered is the only direct use that does not backfire. Now the pest control claim, because you have heard it, and it is half true. There is research where a caffeine solution drove 100% of slugs out of treated soil. But read the fine print. That used a measured caffeine solution at concentrations far higher than what sits in your used grounds. The Old Farmer's Almanac notes the slug deterrent effect is real, but weak from spent grounds alone. So treat it as a minor bonus, not a reason to pile them on. Piling them on just recreates every problem we covered. Here is a warning the cheerful videos never give. Even small caffeine residues can suppress germination and slow growth in certain plants. Alfalfa, clover, mustard, geranium, and asparagus fern are on the sensitive list. So keep grounds, even composted, away from seed beds and away from those specific plants. This is not a universal amendment. It has plants it does not get along with. And one more place to stop: houseplants. Piling grounds on an indoor pot invites compaction, surface mould, fungus gnats, and poor drainage in a container that cannot dry out and recover the way an outdoor bed can. The houseplant hack you have seen is closer to a slow way to hurt the plant than to feed it. Keep coffee grounds where they belong, in the outdoor compost pile. We are nearly there, and I saved the most important idea for last, the real reason any of this works and the mistake that undoes it. If you want the part that separates gardens that improve from people who just repeat the ritual, subscribe and stay for these final minutes. This is where it comes together. So here is the turn this whole subject has been building toward. Coffee grounds do help your garden. That part of the myth was never a lie, but they do not help the way you were told, and that changes everything about when you should use them. They are not feeding your plants nitrogen. Their real value is as a soil conditioner, food for the microbes and worms that build good soil structure, delivered only after composting has stripped out the parts that fight your plants. Once you see it that way, the timing rewrites itself. If your soil is already rich, high in nitrogen, or alkaline, coffee compost may do nothing you need, and piling it on can tip you into too much nitrogen, which grows leafy plants that refuse to flower or fruit. This is the part nobody says out loud. There are gardens where the correct amount of coffee grounds is none. The Old Farmer's Almanac says it plainly. Test your soil before adding anything, coffee included. That is the mistake that quietly undoes everything. Not using grounds wrong, but using them blind. The gardener who tests sees a nitrogen-poor, compacted soil and adds composted coffee gets a real improvement. The gardener who dumps the filter on whatever is closest because the internet said coffee is good is gambling. Sometimes it is harmless. Sometimes it costs the season. Knowledge is what turns it from a gamble into a decision. So go back to that filter by your sink. You now know it is not fertilizer and not poison. It is a raw material with one correct path. Compost it, keep it under a quarter of the pile, pair it with browns, give it months, and add it only where a soil test says your soil wants it. Do that, and the same grounds that ruined a Melbourne trial will quietly build you better soil for years. And that opens the next question, because coffee grounds are only the first kitchen scrap the internet lies about. Eggshells are supposed to be free calcium for your tomatoes, so I buried them in soil and measured how long they actually take to break down. And the answer surprised me. If you want that one tested the same way, with the studies and the timing nobody mentions, subscribe before you go and watch the eggshell video next. It changes how you think about every scrap you throw in the garden.